Okay. Now I got the intro that time. When I hit spacebar and the mouse is in the wrong spot, the video doesn't play, the recording stops. So, hooray. Okay, my first time around when I watched this, there's a depiction later of him cleaning the gun he's about to use. I'm just connecting that now. I was wondering kind of about it and what the point was, and if he was like doing it, to give himself more time to have an out or something, but maybe hoping someone would walk in, which they did. And how many times have we maybe done something we knew we shouldn't be, even up to the point of something suicidal or leading to suicide, and hoped someone would show up, and no one ever does. But it just occurred to me that the girl with the makeup preparing herself kind of in the same way. Maybe there's even something deeper there, like she herself is seeing her as the thing, like how she looks specifically, as the thing that is like the instrument of her death, the thing that is killing her, and with him it's the thing that he's using. Yeah.
Solid ground. I tried to look the other way, but I couldn't turn around.
Oh, man. It's caving in around me, what I thought was solid ground. I tried to look away, but I couldn't turn around. Like, this is all there is. Literally the ground that you're standing on, the relationships you thought that you had, the family you thought, who continues to remind you that they are your family. So you were obligated to certain things, certain actions, certain forms of relationship with them. The people that claim to be your friends, so they keep wanting and wanting and wanting, but it's caving in around you. It's a hollow, and there's nowhere you can look, there's nowhere to go. And I'll get right to it. Like, Jesus is the solid rock on which I stand. As corny as that line is, it's absolutely the case. And honestly, it's the case whenever we're doing it right. And anytime we're standing on anything else, we're doing it wrong. But that's just like theological platitude. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't really mean anything to someone who is in this pit of despair, of isolation, of loneliness. And I'm just here to guarantee you that Jesus is there with you. He carries your sorrow, your grief, your anguish, your anger, your self-loathing, all of it. He has carried it to the cross, and but that doesn't mean that it has gone away. And that's one of the wrongest lessons that we ever get from church and preaching and whatever, is that either when you convert it goes away, or effectively that everything, all the sin was done away with on the cross, and that there won't be any grieving anymore. And now suddenly, anytime you're going through something, it's because you need to just get over it, or you're bringing it on yourself, or both. No, Paul says to weep with those who weep, not to tell them to shut up and get over it.
It's okay for you to hate
Oh, man.
for all the things I've done. I've made
God, she's so young. I just sort of clicked.
I'm not the only one. Step away from the ledge. I'm coming down. I could never be what you want me to. You pull me under.
Okay. So I'm guessing they're both supposed to be in their rooms. She doesn't seem to have much in her room. He has this giant American flag in his room or wherever he's at. And that, brought to mind the first time I went through this, that this like American sort of conservative ideal of masculinity that especially younger men and teenagers are supposed to live up to. You're strong and generally extroverted, but not too loud, but still loud. Assertive and self-important and independent. You don't rely on anyone. You don't show weakness. You rarely show emotion. If it is, it's only confidence and, sort of almost a false sense of victory, if anything. And if you're not these things, you're doing it wrong. And in the church, it's the same. There's different variations of this. You need to be strong in the Lord and whatever garbage. It's just the same drivel. It's the same lie. So it's like he has upheld these ideals that he even looks up to, and it's not that anyone has necessarily forced him into that, but the fact that here's this ideal structure that he's not reaching of his own accord. And that's the message we always hear from family, friends, church especially, a lot of times family especially too, that this is what you need to be, to do, to look like, to act like, to sound like, to be, again, on your own. So pray more, smile more, talk more, extrovert more, work harder, have better faith, have more faith, hurry up and get over it and do it already. You bring it all on yourself. And it's all garbage. Also, I hate bullying. I lived through it for most of the time I was at school. I lived through it at home, from parents, step-parents, dad and stepdad specifically. Even siblings. My wife got it a lot, especially from siblings. I absolutely loathe it. I can't say that I hate the people, but I hate the thing and what it does and what it says to you, you're already powerless, and it just keeps getting shoved in your face more and more and more, that somehow you're in this impossibly paradoxical position of being both helpless and at fault for everything. And you try, and who you are, but you are not seen, you're not heard, you have nowhere to go, and especially for guys, but really everyone, maybe you try to say something, you try to reach out to anyone, and you absolutely get ignored, again, because of this ideal that you're not reaching, because things aren't as bad as they seem, and maybe with cyberbullying, that comes up kind of later in the video, so I'll get to more of that then. No. Jeez. Yeah, I mentioned before that, I know these are just actors, but these aren't made up situations. They're not made up people. They're maybe stand-ins for real people in the situations. And she's standing there this gorgeous young woman, hating herself and hating what she looks like, and hasn't shown up in the video yet, but because pictures of her leaked out and she's just become even more objectified, which is already a horrible aspect that women deal with anyway, especially younger women, and just to add that to it, bringing this public declaration of you should be ashamed and you should be nothing. You're just an object for people and to ogle, and that's it. And it's so absolutely disgusting and horrendous, and I hate it so much. Wait, is that her? Back it up. I don't think so. Is that her with weird makeup and different hair color? I don't think so. Maybe? No, I don't think so. But what's that say? I don't know. This is what, you go home, you have no one, you have nothing, all you have is your head and your thoughts, and just the haunting of words and faces just heckling you and screaming at you over and over and over and over again. A lot of times it may not even be someone else. It's a lot of times it's your own head and your own thoughts like in your own voice. Like this is more of what my wife goes through. With me, it's stuff from other people. With her, it's just her own head, like agreeing with the worst things that people have said and implied, and it sucks so much because you're really stuck. And this is why I want to emphasize that, like, this is when God is closest to you, when you feel like you're the farthest from everyone else, because there are the fewest barriers between you and him now. You know, there are the fewest people that you can rely on instead of him. There are the fewest things that you can turn to instead of him. And he carried every single grief and anguish and anger, every bit of each of these, all of these things, all of it that you've ever felt, that you do feel, that you will, to the cross. But he also carries them with you now. It wasn't as the church always, the message is always this lie about that everything goes away once you're converted or whatever. Like, no, it doesn't. It gets worse. In fact, in Matthew 13, it says that the word of God that grows up in someone actually causes problems, causes hardships and trials and tribulations, whatever the wording is. Peter says that, like, those who are following Jesus, and I'm very roughly paraphrasing, but those who are following Jesus are like the metal that gets thrown in the fire. It burns, but it's necessary to be refined. Now, what does that mean when you're in the depths of genuine isolation and despair, crammed in and crushed by every single person you see ever, especially on a daily basis, that God is there still with you in that pit, not demanding that you come up on the other side like the message often is, not screaming at you or just tapping his foot impatiently waiting for you to hurry up and get out and get over it. No, he's just waiting, longs for you to turn to him and walk with him, regardless of everyone else and everything else going on, regardless of yourself and how much you don't know how to deal with anything, and maybe even who you are to whatever extent. And this is where I want to emphasize to find a place, whether it's a closet with pillows around you, or you have to leave the house for a while, or if you have a car or a room you can go to on your own, or even you live on your own, whatever extent of like physical isolation you need to find, so that you can turn to him, like, without these distractions. And it really sucks. Like, I've been walked in on when I was praying before and told I needed to stop because they weren't comfortable with it. Like, that, it's horrible. Man, so just try to find a place that hopefully no one will show up. And don't hold things back. If you have to go out in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere, I've done that before, and just scream at him if you need to. Like, if that's there, don't hold it back, because I guarantee, like, he can take it, he has taken it, he does take it, and he wants to carry it with you and not just have you crushed under it still. And you'll feel stupid, and you'll feel like, oh, well, maybe you may think, God doesn't exist or whatever, but what do you have to lose? You're already losing. What do you have to lose? Like, and then, okay, worst case scenario, right? I don't know who I know. I don't know the God that I know. He doesn't exist. Worst case scenario, you still cathartically get to go scream somewhere. But that's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to go talk like there's someone there, because there is. Okay. Okay, it's a day in and day out. You go to school, you come home, you have no one, you hate yourself, everyone seems to hate you, though I guarantee you for the most part they just don't care, they don't really notice you, and they certainly don't know the impact that they have on you. Like, the dude smoking something, didn't show what, the girl's, I don't know if huffing is the word, breathing, huffing paint thinner, and then you go to bed, just some form of something to forget, to be distracted from the monotony, from the, not just the monotony, the soul-crushing monotony of just life around, the stuckness. And here, Oh, is it a Wii on the right? I can't tell. But I have that specific Xbox, the Xbox 360 Slim. Still play it occasionally. And, like, I don't know how many years I played Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, I played Halo Wars, I played Skyrim some, and other games, like, because the only, and Battlefield Middle-earth 2. It was like, come home, again, same as, I guess that was sort of my drug in a sense. It's the only place I had to escape from the ridicule, the ire, the lovelessness, the coldness of especially family. People at school, as I got older, became less relevant. I put up a lot more with bullying when I was younger, especially from family, though that sort of continued. But he's giving it away like he's done. He's made up his mind, like, this is it. The kid mouths, "Are you sure?" It's like, yeah, of course. No, he's not sure. But he's told himself that he has to be. And that's what we do with, especially when you get to the point of being suicidal and you actually make the decision to do something. You just cram out everything else. Because that's the only way you're going to do anything, because you spent so long, weeks, months, years maybe, not just being totally helpless, being in control of nothing. Like with the girl when she was cutting, the same kind of thing. Like, this is the one thing she's able to do, as people from the outside are continually just refuse to acknowledge her, but also don't leave her alone. And she knows who she is, but it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Like, I grew up with a lot of that, especially at home, that I would say something and then I would be told that I was lying after. Like, I would be asked why I did something or what I was thinking. I would say it, and I'd be told no, I was lying, and then be subsequently told what I was actually thinking and why I'd actually done something. Yeah, so you find these little, like, whatever you can to remind yourself that you have any sort of control, like, to feel sort of, whatever. And then the pain of that is, like, it reminds you, if this is real, then I must still be real, at least to some degree, at least in this, I'm still real. But he's past that point. He's giving up his I mean, they're both past that point. Like, immediately, I don't know if this is supposed to be, but, like, he talks to the kid, has to put on a smile, walks back inside, immediately starts getting yelled at. Like, how many of our lives is that, especially living with parents who, mind you, parents are people. They're flawed and lost and confused and hurting. The problem is, like, with the way that sin works, the way the human condition works, none of that goes away when you have a kid. Honestly, it probably multiplies. And when you're acting just like you saw with him, with his friend at the door, his younger friend at the door, which is important with the bullying and not fitting in, he was putting on the smile to not indicate that anything was wrong. Parents are just people, just the same way, that have these stigmatizations that they have to meet around other people. But when you have kids, you don't have those boundaries anymore. So the more parents may feel like they have to force themselves around other people, more than likely the more abusive they're going to be towards their kids. Because it really comes down to, if you feel like you can take someone for granted, then you'll end up abusing them. I've done this. I did this to the person I thought I was going to end up marrying. I turned into my dad more than I ever have, and I absolutely hate it, and I praise God that he's brought me out of it. And this was several years ago now, but I absolutely loathe what I turned into and how I treated her. And I'm really glad that she left abruptly like she did, because she needed to. And that's one of the most difficult things, and I'm glad that there was a distance between us. So it was kind of what caused the problem, part of what caused the problem too, but like physical distance. But man, I don't know, I'm gone. He's got nothing left. I hate it. oh, are they connecting over like the point that they're at with like doing this together? I've never caught that in this before. Oh, jeez. Man, I don't know if it was in this video or the last one, so I'll say it again. I absolutely loathe how girls are objectified, especially by other, like, yeah, okay, men especially online at this point are absolutely disgusting and vile and shallow. But women are connivingly, manipulatively abusive and objectifying towards other women, out of, arrogance, out of conceit, out of self-doubt, out of all these different things that we're dealing with a lot of times, but ends up being projected onto others. I mean, find me a bully who isn't themselves being bullied somewhere else. You probably won't. Well, okay, my stepdad was one. The first stepdad. Well, first one I remember. There were a lot. Anyway. I hate it. And my God loves you so much. He cares for you. He cradles you. Every hair on your head is numbered, and he hates what you're going through. And he loathes, he despises how other people treat you and how it leads you to think about yourself and your self-worth. And you think you're worthless, you think you are nothing, and you just... You're his daughter. You're his son. His prince, his princess. His baby boy, his baby girl. And all this is such garbage, and it's all we ever hear. From every direction, from every... authority figure, almost, from every influencer or influence in our lives. Certainly, it's just relentless either apathy, and apathetic like platitudes and oh, get over it, or it's active blame. And it's absolutely destructive. It's so horrible and it's so wrong. And don't leave this video if you have something to say without saying it. Say it in the comments. I'll be here. Hopefully other people will be here. Oh, man. Like, this sucks. Like, this is not... Like, parents are people, but parents, don't scream at your kids. Don't take your frustrations out. Like, no, stop. They're your children, your responsibility and your gift and your blessing. I don't care how frustrated you are or how at the end of the rope you feel like you are. I don't care how much they cry or wail, how much they throw things, how much they talk back, any of it. I'm not going to say suck it up. I'm not going to say just deal with it and get over it. That'd be extremely hypocritical. But take it to someone else. Take it to your Lord and Savior. And take it to your spouse if you have one. Take it to your closet if that's all you have. Your car. Same as any of the rest of us. Stop blaming your kids for your struggles. It's not their fault. And they're making it like they're growing up thinking that it's their fault. It isn't. I'm not saying it's yours either, but don't take it out on them.
It's all coming down around me. Does anyone care at all? I will never be.
Does anyone care at all? Like, look, he's got nothing left.
I pull you under.
Man, I'm running out of steam here. There's so much. I don't know. Just go through this. Like, that's it. That's exactly it. You know, we spend so much of our lives literally in our phones and online in some capacity. Like, this is where our lives are. This is where we are. This is where our minds are, our hearts are. There's no just, oh, sticks and stones, whatever. There's no just get over it. There's no, oh, you know, oh, are you offended, poor baby, whatever. No. Like, this is us just interacting virtually with people, sure, but it's no less of an interaction. It literally it physically tears you up, even though it's something that's just on the screen. To that capacity of you're just shredded by these demons, monstrous creature things that you are helpless against, and they just continually and especially it's just over and over, day in and day out, over and over and over, continuously. Okay, so giant, like, double-mouthed minotaur creature, snakes. I paused at this exact frame on the last video, jeez. But the snakes thing specifically is like he's cramming, to think of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. It's like this agent, really, of deception, this icon of deception. He's cramming this deception down the kid's throat. It's like it doesn't matter if you know who you are or what you think or feel. The lies about you get crammed down, and you have to deal with them like you carry them anyway, despite that they're not real. You know, that you are forced to ingest these things and internalize them, regardless of whether you actually think them or not. You end up thinking them anyway. And this, like, she literally, how often do we have a moment like in the shower where we feel hope, or I guess assume that no one can hear us, and if someone does, we probably get yelled at or belittled, you know, or just kind of cold-shouldered and patronized more, but less directly. But as a result of it, like, so I really want you to find a place that you can call out to God and talk to Him, because He is there. But I want it to be somewhere that is not going to make things worse. And did I mention in this video or the last one? I can't remember. At a certain point, you don't have anything. Like, you are losing. That's the fact, and you know it. So either God doesn't exist and you cathartically yell, or He does and you meet the King of the universe, and He is with you, and he carries you, and He speaks with you, and He weeps with you. I hate it. I wish this would happen. Here we go. Okay. Like, I don't want to... It's a really touchy scenario here, because on the one hand I want to say, look, if you are able to be a friend to someone, if you're able to sit down and listen, if you're able to, you know, just be who you've said that you will be to them, do that. And do that. And, you know, if you can't be the thing, either say it or don't say it that you're going to in the first place. Especially with, like, keeping plans and doing things with people. And if you're not going to be able to say it, again, don't just not show up. Don't just, like, have things around someone's head. Especially the thing where, you know, friends go out to do something and don't tell the person they don't like, and then afterward they're talking about it, and, you know, even almost like just to rub it in their face. I got quite a bit of that, especially early in college, late in high school. My wife has gotten a lot of that also. But So anyone who's watching this who doesn't feel like they're struggling so much, like, absolutely. Who are the people in your life that you can just pay a little bit of attention to and mean it? Like, that's it. And for the rest of us, you're not alone. You're actually not alone. I mean, I hope that doing this, sitting here having this conversation, helps to indicate that, like, I'm just some dude on the internet. I have some education, sure, I have some experiences, and I'm absolutely willing to sit down and just listen and converse, in the comments or some other way if that's how we end up connecting. I'm not licensed for anything, but I have gone to school. One of my counseling professors, I wasn't a Christian at the time, so maybe the reality of what he said would have seemed more obvious or less impactful or something. But he says, like, what does it say about our society when one of our, like, highest paid, most trained, most respected professions is just to sit down and listen and not judge? And how much do we need that in the church? The listening, where you're not just, like, having a verse or some other, formulaic answer to give to someone before you've even heard what they're saying, and to not judge. You hear a lot of people that are sort of anti-Christian talk about how Christians only judge. You hear about a bunch of Christians talk about people on the outside who just, like, want excuses for everything, whatever. I'll be honest, like, in the church especially, and in general, in the world, everywhere, the nature of judgment has been forgotten. The nature of judgment has been lost. Because on the one side, you have Christians who really do judge, who condemn based on rules and whether someone meets a certain stereotype or a certain appearance, or whether they perform a certain doctrine, or whether they do their spiritual disciplines or whatever. And of course, that's what so many of us deal with, is when we don't hit these certain, like, made up check boxes, and we get blamed for anything that might be going on in our lives, and anything's going on with ourselves that we haven't just gotten over, hurried up and tried already. Stop being lazy, stop being selfish, whatever. And on the flip side, outside the church sees that Christians have absolutes and decide that if there's an absolute, it must be a judgment. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. The problem is that's how most Christians have and continue to act like and treat it, especially now as things are getting more and more divisive. Churches are dying. Obviously, Christianity as a religion in mass, or en masse, whatever the term is, by volumes, is dying. Is not going to leave, because God is not dependent on us being Christians, obviously, and He's not leaving us either. But it, as a culture, it is dying. That's what it is. Anyway, so yeah, I think I still need to talk about my my best friend, who is no longer alive, because it was brought up sort of in this video. You had the kid towards the end who showed back up with the gaming stuff, and he's like, hey, let's go do something, and it broke the main kid out from what he was preparing to do, and it was like suddenly realized he wasn't entirely alone. And that's all we need, right, is that we're not entirely alone. It doesn't need to be completely not alone. We can deal with solitude. The problem is that that's all we have, and when all we have is a hiding place away from the world, because the world is so harsh and unforgiving and despicable. And by the world, in this case, I mean family and friends, mostly. And people at school generally, and work generally, I suppose. My best friend, he, the only person I ever looked up to, as before I knew Jesus, and the only person I ever looked up to aside from God. And he was about a year older than me. We grew up in Scouts together. Number of interests, including music and sense of humor, that I still have a lot of influence from him, even though he's been gone for 12 years, over 12 years now. So I was at Scouts one night, just any other scouting night. He wasn't there. His brother wasn't there. I didn't know, what was going on. A lot of the older guys, I was 17 at this point, he was 18, just weren't that committed at that point anyway. I went home, stepmom brought me home. Dad was immediately angry about, I can't even remember what, as soon as we walked in the door. And I went to my room, again, like another night, just without love. And I don't just mean like I wasn't loved, I mean there was no love. And I didn't know that in those terms, but I knew I couldn't take it. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I couldn't manage anything anymore, and it wasn't an excuse. It wasn't even a ultimatum. It was just an admission of the reality that I was in. So I knelt down at my bed and I prayed. I didn't pray to anyone specific because I didn't know anyone. I knew that God had to have created everything, but that's as far as it went. And I felt like a lot of that weight was just lifted. There was like a bit of it to remind me that it was still there, but I wasn't carrying it, crushed under it anymore. But then go to sleep, wake up the next morning to my dad, who's crying, who tells me that my best friend had killed himself. And it was the day before, so it literally on the same day, we each came to the same conclusion that we can't deal anymore. We can't manage, we can't live, literally do not have the ability to live anymore. But I reached out to the unknown, and he, who had grown up in church, for him there was no unknown. Because that church, the culture, the Catholic culture he was a part of, I mean, any church culture, doesn't matter if it's Catholic or any denomination, but I was like, these are the rules, this is the way things are. There was nowhere else to turn. So he did the only thing that he knew how to. I guess I did the only thing that I knew how to, because I was too afraid to do anything else, and that's just not where my mind went to. But I had the option for my mind to go somewhere else, and he didn't. And yeah, so I want to reassure you, re-guarantee that being around people who claim to have, who appear, who want to force you to acknowledge that they have all the answers or any answers, like, that doesn't mean that they do, and it doesn't mean that all the answers have been given to you. Like, turn to your God personally, specifically, candidly, even if it's like what I did, just to nothing, what seems like nothing or no one in particular, like as if someone is there but you don't know who it is. And if you do know God, turn back to him. He's still with you. This is not the God of the mainstream church that only victory, only resurrection, only joy. No, that's all garbage. To weep with those who weep. Certainly God weeps with you. He carries your grief and is a man of sorrows. What's the Isaiah scripture? That didn't stop at the cross. That culminated there. It didn't stop there. Expanded to everyone, everywhere, forever. So, talk to me, but first talk to God. Scream at him and talk to me. Talk to anyone else you might have that you're afraid, not that you're afraid to go to, that you think you can go to, but you're too ashamed to. That's what it is. Don't go to people that you're afraid to, that treat you like crap already. Go to the people that you think probably, won't, but you're too ashamed and you feel like you should do things on your own, and you feel like you should, like you're too stupid, or like it is too stupid of a thing to go to that. Like, if they're the people that you think that they are, then they're the people that you think that they are. But I mean, me and other people in the community, like in the comments here, on this video, I'll just read the top one. Like, there really are, whatever form you need to reach out, like, you can just do it. So here, when you've been suicidal and attempted suicide, this song hits different. Edit, if I had known this comment would take off like it did, I would have put more thought into it. Just know that you're here, you're alive, and you matter. No matter how dark it gets, there is a light that shines. And this light of the world that is Jesus, he continues to shine. Even if you don't know how, just see it. Your life matters, and you're here for a reason. Don't know you, but I love you, I care for you. All of you, all of us who are suffering silently, don't stop fighting, don't give up. You do matter. You matter more than you can even understand. Certainly more than anyone's ever been willing to tell you, to admit to you, to emphasize to you. You matter beyond words, beyond imaginings, beyond, certainly beyond things and your usefulness and what you do, and whether you meet certain standards or not. Oh, you matter so, you are loved so much. Jeez, I love you and I don't know you, and I'm a 200 and, what am I, 280 pound, like 6'2", bearded dude, and I can say that I love you and I don't know you. You absolutely matter. You're absolutely valued. You're so much, I can't understand how valuable you are. So please, don't leave this without connecting, without, saying something in the comments, maybe just subscribing to keep up if you don't feel like you can, put yourself out in words. And I'm here. We're here. Plenty of people that I don't know, plenty of people on here, I don't know any of these people, but they're here. This is real. And you're not a moron, and you're not worthless for thinking that it's real. You're not an idiot and useless for having problems, for having struggles, for not having gotten over it. Absolutely not. And I want you to know how valuable you are. So please, please,